Right now, millions of Americans are asking one critical question. Does the president actually control the economy, or are we all believing something that isn't entirely true? Surveys show that about half of Americans believe election results directly impact their personal finances. Nearly everyone agrees the economy influences their vote. It's understandable. We feel it every day in grocery bills, rent, interest rates, and job security. But here's the deeper question. Is the president truly the one pulling the strings, or is the reality far more complex? Tonight, we investigate the system behind the headlines, from interest rates to global shocks, from Congress to consumer psychology, to uncover what really drives the U.S. economy. And by the end, you'll see why the answer isn't as simple as it seems. There's a powerful image many people carry in their minds: a president behind a curtain pulling economic levers, raising wages, lowering prices, steering the nation toward prosperity. It's a compelling idea, but according to economists and historical data, it's also incomplete. In reality, the US economy behaves less like a machine and more like a massive, slow moving system influenced by dozens of forces at once. And the president? More like a participant within that system, not its sole operator. Let's start with the two most important economic tools governments use. Monetary policy is about controlling the supply and cost of money, primarily through interest rates. When inflation rises, interest rates may go up. When the economy slows, rates may go down. But here's the key detail. The president does not directly control monetary policy. That responsibility belongs to the Federal Reserve, an independent central bank designed to operate without direct political pressure. And there's a reason for that independence. Raising interest rates is rarely popular. It can make mortgages more expensive, increase credit card payments, and slow economic activity. But sometimes it's necessary to stabilize inflation. This creates a situation where the most impactful short-term economic decisions are intentionally removed from presidential control. Still, presidents are not entirely disconnected. They appoint key officials, including Federal Reserve leadership, shaping long-term direction indirectly. But even then, those appointees operate within institutional frameworks that limit political influence. So, if monetary policy isn't directly controlled by the president, what about fiscal policy? This is where things get more interesting. Fiscal policy involves government spending and taxation, decisions that directly affect economic growth. Here, the president does have influence, but not control, because under the U.S. Constitution, spending must be approved by Congress. In other words, a president can propose, but Congress must approve. And when political divisions exist, which has often been the case in recent years, major economic plans can stall. This creates a system of shared power, not centralized authority. Now, let's expand the lens even further. Because even if a president and Congress align perfectly, they still wouldn't fully control the economy. Why? Because the US economy doesn't exist in isolation. It's deeply connected to the global system. Events outside the country can reshape economic outcomes almost instantly. Supply chain disruptions, energy prices, international conflicts, technological shifts, global demand. All of these factors influence inflation, employment, and growth, and none of them are fully within presidential control. Think of the economy like a massive supertanker. Even with strong leadership, turning it takes time, and external waves can shift its course unexpectedly. Now consider something even closer to home: state governments. Each U.S. state has its own tax policies, labor markets, and economic conditions. From unemployment insurance rules to local business regulations, these decisions collectively shape the national economy, yet they operate independently of the president, which means economic outcomes are the result of layered decision-making, federal, state, and global, all interacting at once. So, where does the president's influence matter most? History suggests during crises, moments when rapid, coordinated action is required. During the 2008 financial crisis, emergency economic measures were introduced to stabilize the system. Similarly, during major downturns, large scale spending programs can help prevent deeper economic contraction. In these moments, presidential leadership combined with congressional action can play a meaningful role. But even then, results are not immediate. Policies take time to implement and even longer to show effects. And sometimes the outcomes depend on factors beyond anyone's control. Now, let's explore another dimension, one that's often overlooked: consumer confidence, business expectations, investor sentiment. These intangible factors can have real economic consequences. When people feel optimistic, they spend more. When uncertainty rises, spending slow. Research suggests that political events, including elections, can influence this behavior. Some individuals may delay investments, waiting for outcomes they believe will shape economic conditions. Others may increase spending based on confidence in future policies. In this way, perceptions about leadership can influence the economy, even if policies haven't changed yet. It's a subtle but powerful dynamic, and it highlights something important. The economy is not just driven by policy, it's driven by people. Now let's bring in real-world perspective. Looking at data from 2025 and early 2026, several trends stand out. Inflation has shown signs of stabilization compared to previous peaks, but remains sensitive to energy markets and global supply conditions. Interest rates have remained a central topic, influencing housing affordability, consumer credit, and business investment. Job markets have demonstrated resilience in some sectors, while others continue adjusting to technological change and global competition. And throughout all of this, public perception continues to link economic outcomes closely to political leadership. But as we've seen, that connection is more nuanced than it appears, which brings us to an important conclusion. The president's influence on the economy is real, but it is limited, indirect, and often delayed. They can guide direction, they can propose policies, they can respond during crises, but they cannot single-handedly control outcomes. And understanding this matters because expectations shape decisions. If people believe one individual can instantly fix complex economic challenges, disappointment becomes almost inevitable. But when we recognize the broader system, we begin to see the economy for what it truly is: a dynamic, interconnected network influenced by policy, markets, global forces, and human behavior. Let's take a look at what viewers are saying. One comment reads, "Every election feels like it decides my paycheck." Another says, "Politicians promise a lot, but prices don't seem to listen." And this perspective stands out. It's not just one person, it's the whole system. These comments reflect something deeper, a gap between perception and reality. And closing that gap is essential for understanding how economic decisions truly work. So, who controls the US economy? Not one person, not one institution, but a complex system of policies, markets, global forces, and human choices. The president plays a role, but not the role many imagine. And as we move forward into an increasingly interconnected world, that distinction becomes more important than ever. If you found this investigation valuable, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because in a world full of headlines, understanding the system behind them matters more than ever. Thank you for watching.